Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today we're going to take a look at the new club kits from Spellbinders. I do not have all of them, but I do have quite a few. First one we have is Happy Hello Floral, which is the clear stamp and die of the month. It's got these real pretty flowers, some nice sentiments, and of course all of the dies to go along with it. Then we've got this guy. This is the embossing folder of the month. There, I think you can see it a little bit better when I take the paper out, but look at those lovely arches. That's going to make a real pretty textured background. Then we've got, again, the overflowing florals, this time as a glimmer plate and a sentiment that says, hope all is well with you. I think that is super, super pretty. But here's something that they sent me that is, I think it's just an add-on, so you'll have to check it out. I've got some stencils to help me with the coloring of this guy, so that is going to be super, super fun. Next, we've got the stitched floral card front. It's got a sentiment that says hi right there in the center and lots of pieces that you can stitch or not. It really is up to you. You can either leave them without any stitching for just the texture when you're creating your card, or you can add all those additional stitches. Then we've got Blooming Pomegranate, which is the large die of the month. So, and it is a pretty large one. I had to put it on two two magnetic sheets to fit in my packet. So that's going to be fun. And then we've got this one that is called Breezy Swing. And let me just show that because you can't really see it from the dies, but it creates that lovely scene with a lady swinging on a swing. So I think that is going to be super fun too. So I'm going to be creating with these, so stay tuned to see all of the projects that I make with them. For the first card, I'm inking up one side of that embossing folder with Remember Me from Simon Hurley and running that through my die cutting machine. I'm also using a medium blue cardstock, and the effect that I'm going for is having that ink just press into the grooves so that it gives a little bit more dimension and texture, just a little bit. It's going to be a blue on blue. For the focal image, I'm going to use this clear stamp and die of the month, stamping it out in that same Remember Me blue ink, and then die cutting it out. Of course, we need a sentiment, so I'm stamping out, sending a happy hello, and I'm doing that in VersaFine Clair Nocturne and embossing that using Wow Clear Embossing Powder. Next, we'll put it all together. I've got some foam tape on the back of my focal image, put that down onto the card panel and just trimmed off the edges. Now I'm just mounting everything down onto a card base and giving it a black mat. And I'm putting a little bit of foam on the back of that little sentiment that we've embossed and cut out, and that card is all done. I'm doing the same kind of sort of thing with the second card, stamping it out this time in Bee Sting from Simon Hurley. That's a real pretty red color. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that out, and then we're going to do a little bit of die cutting. But this time we're going to just die cut the edge. So I'm using one of the dies that comes in the set to die cut that little edge, and I did the stamping on a card base. So we are going to have a shaped edge on our card base. So that's going to be kind of fun, kind of a floating edge there. And I'm adhering the other sentiment on the front of the card, and that card's done. For my next couple of cards, I'm using the Glimmer of the month. Now, it is that same real pretty floral pattern, and I'm going to start off by glimmering that up in some gold foil. Just running that through my die cutting machine after the Glimmer system heated up, and that came out just absolutely gorgeous. Now, a fun thing with this one is we do have this coordinating stencil, so I am going to just ink up that panel. Actually, I made two of the panel, one in silver and one in gold, and I decided to save the gold one to use on its own, and I'm coloring up the one that is done in silver using some inks from Simon Hurley and some from Catherine Pooler, so I can get all the colors that I want in here. I've got some real pretty yellow using I'm using Slippery When Wet from Simon Hurley and some orange with Tutti Frutti from Catherine Pooler. For the greens, I'm using Later Gator and Deck the Halls. And then finally, for those little tiny blooms, that the kind of the buds that haven't really done anything yet, I'm using some Samba, which is a new ink that I just recently got. I'm trimming the panels down a little narrower than an A2 size card, a little different than I normally do. And for the first one, I'm just adhering that straight down onto a yellow card base and popping up a sentiment on some foam. For the second one, I'm putting down some gold paper onto the card base and then popping the whole panel up, that whole glimmered panel that is in that pretty gold, onto the front, and then just adhering that sentiment down with some gold. And that's going to finish up these two lovely, lovely foiled cards. Next, we're going to be playing with the stitched die of the month. This is this big die. It's basically an A2 size die. It's got a nice background. If we take the background piece off, see, it's got a lot of little holes in there, so you can have flat card except for those places that have got some stitching required, or let's just say it's got embossed lines. So we've got a couple of flowers and we've got a couple of leaves on different areas, but then you've got all of these little die cut pieces so that you can do separate stitching or separate die cut pieces, whichever you want to do, and then layer those up, I'm thinking, on some foam. So that is what my idea is to start off with. So I'm using just some regular floss. This is very, very old that I've just had in my stash. And I'm going to be stitching up the rest of these. I've already gone last night while I was watching TV. I went ahead and stitched all our little flowers. And this is a really, really quick and easy stitching to do. Here's what we're going to do. On each of our little die cuts, we have little lines. Those lines show you where the thread should go. And I'm going in this time, usually I come in from the back, but this time I'm just going to come in from the front. And I'm going to hold one of the threads. I'm going to hold the thread around the back through one of those grooves. Not too long, but leaving a little bit so that I'll be able to tie it later. You'll be able to see that in a minute. This only takes like a minute or so to do each of these, so it doesn't take any kind of time at all. And then I'm going to just hold it in place while I bring the next one around. So this is just going to go in that hole. And then the thread, you just place it in the next groove. So you just put it in the next groove that is created by that little scalloped edge. So we're going to do this for each of those. And it looks like I did skip one, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and just keep that up. Like I said, it doesn't take long to do this at all. Big part is just getting them all in the grooves. So I am running out of thread, so I'm going to go ahead and tie this piece off. And that's one reason why I left that little extra in the back. So you can take your loose thread. This was the loose one. This is the one that was left over from the end that I've already got stitched. And I'm just going to tie it in a knot in the back and then trim it off. Now that all the stitching is done, I'm also going to add an additional die cut to the back of each of my stitched pieces. I feel it's going to give it a little bit more stability and make it a little easier to work with. I'm also doing that sentiment for the center, that high. I've cut out 4 additional white pieces plus my blue, and I'm just going to stack all of those up. Actually, I'm stacking up most of them, and then I'm going to add an additional one on the back that has the inlay still in white. So we're going to have a blue sentiment with that white background to make sure that everything stays in place in that die. I'm putting a little bit of post-it tape on the back before I adhere the last of it down. And then I'll set it off to the side to dry while I put all of my flowers and leaves down. Now that all of the stitching is done and all of those little pieces are ready, we can start putting this together. I'm adhering the card panel to a white card base using some dot liner adhesive, and I'll just trim off the extra that's along the edge there. Once that's done, I can start adding all of my little bits. So I'm gluing all of those little tiny flowers straight to the panel using the die as a guide. Actually, I'm not adhering all of the little flowers down. I am doing most of them, and I'm also adding the inner leaves down using some liquid glue as well. For the rest of these, I'm going to pop them up on some foam. So I'm cutting up some pieces of my Scotch foam tape, putting them on the back of those little guys, and then I'll pop those up and then decide what do I want to do with the rest of the flowers. And you're probably wondering, why am I going through all that trouble? The floss does give a little bit of a raised appearance to all of my little bits there, but I did want a little bit of variation, so I've got some of them popped up a little bit higher than the others using the foam. The thread definitely does make everything popped up a little bit, and I just think this gives a lot of variation and makes it look just so pretty. Next, I'm adding some liquid glue to the back of that high, and I'll place that right in the center of my card. I'm adding a sentiment out of the Happy Hello floral set onto the front of my card, a little message to say, so it has a complete message there. Then I decided I also want something a little bit more because this card just didn't look quite finished. I pulled out some flat back pearls and I'm adding that to the center of all of my little flowers, and then I'll add a couple more to the sentiment high. Next up, we have the large die of the month. That is this pomegranate die set. This is actually really pretty. I haven't seen anything like this. I don't have anything else like this in my stash, but the way that it works is you just follow the instructions like so many of the Spellbinders die sets. Follow the instructions that are on the packaging and it'll show you exactly where everything is supposed to layer up. So we've got different sections. We've got the large pomegranates, we've got the pomegranate blossoms, we've got the leaves, all the little things, and you just layer them up the way that it says to on the packaging. And then the green stem piece has got this round circle spot where pretty much all of the flower blooms and buds and pomegranate fruit all go basically on those, so you get to pick which ones you want to put where. For the background, I embossed the front of a card panel. The card panel is in this medium blue color, a little bit darker than what I typically do. Now I'm just adding some glue to the stem part of my pomegranate plant. That is so that I can get it in generally the right shape, and then I can put everything else down, adding a little bit of extra liquid glue behind those pieces before it's finalized. I did have the branch going a little bit off the edge, so I'm just snipping that off and then adding the sentiments on using some foam tape. Now, as a last thing, you know, we have to add all those little flowers that came in the set. So I'm putting this scattering of little white flowers. These are the new blooms for those pomegranates before they start really maturing, and just scattering them all over the card. And I think that fills it nicely and gives it kind of an organic look. Absolutely love this. Then to finish everything off, I'm using some Nuvo drops in Autumn Red as the center on each of those little blooms. So now we're going to play with the small die of the month. This one is called Breezy Swing, and like the others, I did print out the instructions for this because I wanted to make sure I got everything lined up where it's supposed to, and the instructions are fabulous for that. First, I'm putting together the lady's nice pretty blue dress. I'm using 2 different colors of blue cardstock, so it's got the under part is darker than the part on top. Then I'm going in and I'm going to do her legs. Actually, I decided to add her head and shoulders first. Anyway, I'm adding all of the bits the same way that they're listed on the instructions. So this is a really easy one to follow. I'm adding a sentiment that I pulled from my stash. I think that just was perfect for this one, and that finishes up this card. Okay, so when I went to the mailbox yesterday and I found out that my wax seal of the month were in the mailbox, I am so excited. This is one of the kits that has just recently been added on to what I'm getting to show you guys, and they've been so busy, they've been so popular that it of course has been not available for me to get until way after you guys get them usually. So I just got in the one for July and for August. This one I'm using here is the one for August. It has this pretty pink wax and a really pretty mandala stamp. So I'm heating up the wax and then I'm going to stamp out a single wax seal for you guys. It turned out so pretty, and lucky for me, I mean, come on, the pink is a perfect match to go on that last card. I think that is just so lovely, so I just tacked that down with some liquid glue. So I know this was a little bit of a long video. I wanted to incorporate all of the different clubs for you guys in this one video. First off, we've got the embossing folder of the month and the clear stamp and die of the month. Another one with the clear stamp and die of the month. Then we did a couple of cards using the glimmer of the month. Both of them very lovely, and included one using that lovely stencil set. And we've got our fun pomegranates. It's the large die of the month. our stitching for the stitch die of the month, and then this fun one that uses the small die of the month and that fun wax seal. So if there's any of these that you'd like to see another video on, please let me know down in the comments below so I can add it to my to-do list. You guys have a wonderful day. Be sure to check out this playlist to see more videos where I'm using Spellbinders products, and I will talk to you soon. Bye guys.